Pew, 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 pew. Oh, what's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and it's Top 10 Thursday. Over the course of the last 10 years, I've noticed that something really interesting has been happening within the gaming business, which is that there have been so many studios that have risen to the top to create really big, expansive experiences over and over again. They just completely melt our brain with how awesome they are. But with the good, there have also been some absolute dumpster fires. And this week, I wanted to highlight that. The developers and publishers that continue to piss us off with every single big mistake they make. These are my picks of the top 10 most hated game developers. Number 10. Telltale. Perhaps the most intricate and difficult part of any game is probably the story, because it's the thing that makes you care about the universe and the characters, and truly makes you feel like you're part of this journey as they go along. Whereas I feel like certain games try to do this by giving us cool side quests or really expansive levels. Telltale did something different by basically giving us interactive comic books, where we were choosing a path and a place to go, but really it was just a very simple game with the illusion of choice. But even still, they were incredibly fun. However, they seem to have just completely destroyed all the love they'd built up when suddenly, as of a few months ago, they fired every single employee instantly. It turns out that while their games are pretty cool, they themselves know nothing of business, and so they decided to screw over hundreds of employees in an instant. And so because of it, they have instantly been put on the bad list. Number 9. Activision. This company is obviously the king of microtransactions, to the point in which it's just so annoying that you have to dodge them when you're playing any one of their projects. I mean, I'm somebody who's pretty won over by the fact that the new Call of Duty is pretty fantastic, but it's so freaking aggravating that it's constantly trying to pester me to spend more money, buy more maps, and just continue to pay to play. They are so annoying that I've seriously spoken to people who have flat out boycotted any game that Activision has even touched, since they consider it a plague that can never be spread. Number 8. LJN. There's a good chance you've never heard of this game studio because they were popular so long ago, but trust me when I say that in the early Nintendo days, those 3 little letters, LJN, meant nothing but doom. Everything that these guys made was pretty much 100% trash. And it's a shame because they kept getting permission to make great licensed games. So if you went to the store as a little kid and you saw something like Beetlejuice or something like Back to the Future, you'd immediately get excited only to take it home and see a broken, unplayable mess. And they just kept doing it because it kept making them money. This is one of the reasons that I'm so glad I grew up to be a reviewer, because now I can finally warn people away from ever playing garbage like this. But in the 90s, we really had no way of avoiding just absolute toxic stuff like this. Number 7. Microsoft. Of all the game developers and publishers that are in this video, this is the only entry on the list that I really wish wasn't here, but unfortunately it's true. It seems like everything that Microsoft does, people totally hate. They're genuinely trying to make good games, but it seems like people just kinda despise them no matter what they do. The really bad projects like Sea of Thieves and Recore get remembered for years and years and years. It seems like every single mistake that Microsoft makes is eternally etched in stone, and unfortunately it's made it where now people just basically laugh at everything they try and do. If you've ever looked at one of their Twitters, anytime they try and hype up some upcoming project like Crackdown 3, 100% of the replies are people just flat out laughing that they're even still around. Number 6. Zynga. Almost every single gamer on the planet seems to despise mobile games, and I feel like a big part of that is that they don't really replicate console or PC experiences. Instead, they try and have a smaller sort of gameplay and very annoying microtransaction models. They try and monetize every single aspect of leveling up and new content to the point at which you quit not because you're bored, but because you're frustrated. Well, if you ever wondered who the heck invented such a predatory predatory business practice, it's actually these POSs. These dudes actually concocted all sorts of devious plans back in the early Facebook days to basically try and manipulate every single person they could to give away tiny sums of money here and there. They essentially experimented with their early games like Farmville and this stupid battle tactics thing and tried to basically find out exactly how much money they could get out of somebody before they eventually gave up. That is the entire model that now every mobile game follows. And so because of it, these completely messed up dudes are still in the business and still making billions, and they deserve our hate. Number 5. Ubisoft. If you look at a lot of raw data currently, you can see that Ubisoft is not only one of the biggest companies in the business right now, but also one of the highest selling. Many of their projects just keep moving units and getting tons of great DLC, so the fans stay incredibly dedicated to them, but this wasn't always the case. If you rewind time about 5 years to the Xbox 360 era, you see an Ubisoft that was downright despised. They were doing some very evil business practices, like charging you an additional fee to play their games online, or at one point, selling the ending of a game separately. This was so freaking evil and so freaking annoying that a lot of people just flat out stopped buying their stuff. Their sales dipped, their stock basically plummeted, and they realized that they needed to clean up their act. Now, personally, I'm still not the biggest fan of Ubisoft in general, but I will say that they're definitely on the upswing. They want to improve, and for that, I gotta give them credit. Number 4. Phillips. There's a huge chunk of gamers out there who think that Nintendo's entire catalog of games is almost perfect. Everything with the name Mario or Zelda on it is going to be something that's a 10 out of 10 experience, whereas that's not exactly true. While every official Nintendo game is spectacular, there was a time period when somebody else was actually making Nintendo games, and it was legally allowed, which was Phillips. In the 90s, they cut a deal to start making Nintendo games on their console, and I hate to say it, but these are legit. Despite the fact that the graphics are bad and the gameplay is clunky, these are real Mario and Zelda games, but just looking at them, I just can't take it.
What are you crying about this time?
Zelda and the Phillips games.
Oh God, Phillips, no, you're done.
Yeah, I know. Number 3. GameStop. Now, this entry might shock some people because it seems like a big chunk of audience doesn't even realize the fact that this is a game developer. GameStop, along with being a distributor who sells overpriced games and gives garbage trading credits, they also publish stuff, but not very well. Most of their independent projects are very pushy and not very great, but the one that really sticks in my mind the most is when they try to actually step outside their normal comfort zone and start selling exclusive downloadable content. They stepped forward with their studio and their money and started trying to approach different developers to make DLC exclusive to GameStop, meaning that you could only buy these extra add-on missions from them and no one else, which means that if you lived in a country that didn't have a GameStop, or if it's in another country that just doesn't have languages that GameStop supports, then seeing this extra work would be completely impossible. GameStop, for a ton of reasons, is completely scummy, but when it comes to them being a developer, I downright despise them. Number 2. Konami. The English word betrayal is something that I've always enjoyed because I feel like it manages to convey such a deep sense of mistrust. A fact that you were betrayed means so much in such a simple word, and I feel like it's such a perfect term for what Konami did to us. At one point, this was one of the most celebrated studios on the planet. Their games like Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid and even Dance Dance Revolution was so legendary that people got excited anytime they saw the Konami logo. But as time went on, they kept finding new ways to completely screw people over, from trying to fire the developers they liked most, or doing really crappy spin-offs that nobody wanted, to turning their games into pachinko machines instead of sequels. It seems like they derive some sort of pleasure out of punishing their fans, and it's gained them a reputation as being one of the most downright dirty developers ever. And you know what? Personally, they really piss me off because they just don't seem to know how to handle their brands. Metal Gear Survive is easily one of the worst games I've ever played, and the fact that you decided to throw the Metal Gear title on it shows that you don't give a crap about anybody other than your investors. Number 1. Electronic Arts. Let me begin this final entry with a little bit of an unpopular statement, which is that I think that a majority of EA games actually play very, very good. I'd say that 99% have really tight gameplay and controls, even though at the heart of them, there is a deep, dark toxin that sort of ends up ruining the entire experience in the end. Look at something like Star Wars Battlefront 2. This seems like it could be fantastic. It's a game that's so multiplayer focused, but with a total story that takes place in the Star Wars universe. But the problem is that it was pay to win at launch. If you wanted to unlock characters, it would take you hundreds and hundreds of hours for every single upgrade, or you could spend real cash. And this is a business model that just seems to be perpetuated through every single EA project. The main reason that everybody seems to hate them so badly, though, is the fact that every time they buy a new studio, no matter how good it is, it seems to get turned to the dark side. Look at something like BioWare, the infamous creators of Mass Effect, the trilogy that is obviously one of the best pieces of sci-fi ever written, and now it's making Mass Effect Andromeda, a tiny husk of its former greatness. That is the EA touch, a touch of death, something that needs to be avoided, ashamed, and downright spotlighted anytime it happens. Because of their just outright evilness, I have no choice but award them as the number 1 most hated developer. Did your most hated publisher not make the list? Got an idea for a future top 10? Leave it in the Leave it in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. I'm pretty sure I screwed up that intro really bad, but I'm going to use it. I've dropped this thing like 3 times trying to film it, so what are you going to do? Oh, hey, I was just playing a little bit of Grand Theft Auto on my Darth Vader PSP. Are you curious what I'm going to come out with next? Well, if you click this button, you'll be subscribed to be the first to know. Also, if you click over here and here, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. I promise, it was super good. Or it was really bad and I'm sure you can just make fun of me in the comments. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching.